Show your support for the Untold Radio Network family of shows and join in on the conversation by using super stickers and super chats on YouTube. Got a question you want answered? Ask it live via a super chat and get real-time responses from our shows, knowledgeable hosts, and guests. Help keep the Untold Radio Network shows running strong. We need your support. Send your super chats and stickers now.
Well, that was an interesting beginning. Aspasia, thank you. Welcome to episode 60. You're on Down South Anomalies, part of the Untold Radio Network. My name's Jay Katz.
And I'm Aspasia.
And it's a joy to have you with us. You know, all the leaves are brown.
Yeah.
And the sky is grey
Yeah.
on a nuclear winter's day.
That's right.
Yeah. California dreaming turning into a nightmare. Lookout Mountain Lab. But before we get there for this astounding investigation,
it's a very complex story.
It's a rabbit hole that just keeps
another
expanding.
one.
And sometimes I think, should we actually be going there?
Well, you know.
Anyway,
if you want to find out about interesting stuff, you need to go down those
we
rabbit
are
holes.
Broadcasting on stolen land. We state this every single episode of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We want to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. It is really important that all of us pay close attention to our Indigenous culture. They are the light and the way and the true understanding into the world of the anomalous and so much else. I mean, our culture lived in extraordinary harmony with this continent for thousands of years, maybe dating back to the very birth of civilization in terms of the human being. And what have we done? We've been here for a couple of hundred years. We just destroyed the damn place. Anyway,
we're not paying really close attention to it. So anyway.
The other thing I need to state is that this time of year, especially to all our supporters, our viewers and our listeners, that we cannot thank you enough for spending time on this program. We need to do a big call out to Malcolm, Uncle Bones, Charlotte, Ristal, so many great people out there. And I know I've probably forgotten the majority of them, but please bear with us. So where are we going? We're going where our love of film was inevitably going to take us.
It was.
Which is to Hollywood.
But
where
else?
Covert, secret Hollywood.
That's right.
Up, looking down from the Hollywood Hills at the top of Laurel Canyon is Lookout Mountain.
Yeah.
And from 1947 to 1969,
that's right,
the largest studio and covert film processing, editing, animating facility in the world.
That's right.
Was buried deep into the residential plain of California.
It was known as the Lookout Laboratory.
The Lookout Labs. Now, there's been a great book that's only recently come out because this story is really quite, even though that site has been decommissioned since 69, sold to the public in the late 70s. The story about what was going on there
was little known
and only recently come out. There's an incredible book that you actually cited in the last 24 hours. Just tell us briefly about that.
Lookout America.
Yes.
It was published in 2018, and it's two professors actually started looking into it and were very interested about the site and started to dig, and took them quite a while to actually sort through. And the little bit that they did, and they put up this a great site, and I'll put a link to it.
That links you straight into the Defense Department. I realised last time when I was trying to get stills down.
That's right.
And let's go to our stills, because I think we've ended up, if we go to our email after this program, I think the US Navy wants to have a word with us. Yeah. So let's just have a little picture of this.
So that's the Lookout Mountain Laboratory.
That's part of the lab.
That's what that's the bit you can see.
Yeah.
That's what's
how much of
out.
This place is underground as well?
Well, how big did you say it was?
I said one of the studios is 100,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's
now this was
huge.
Primarily
Yeah.
where all the nuclear tests went, the Trinity tests, the greenhouse tests,
Where they filmed,
Operation.
they filmed everything.
No, well, they didn't film it there. They're all off-site, of course.
Yes, but this is where
Went
all
back
the
for
equipment,
processing,
all the,
editing.
this is
all
where it
that.
all came from. And so anything that was being done, missile tests, anything that the Navy, the Air Force, the Army had to be filmed for in-house training, because most of this stuff was never shown publicly unless it was to perception manage.
And now that's a really interesting point, because there are witnesses to the history of Lookout Mountain. And you know, the amazing thing there is they state that there's all these contradictions. There was evidently an incident where they were filming a mock battle that ended up going into the news feeds as the real deal.
Yeah, right.
So fake news very early in the piece.
Of course,
you
know, why would they not construct? Because they are trying to contain and to control what news goes out to the public. Because especially with the Trinity tests and stuff, they were trying to show, you know. I read one great piece. They showed the mushroom cloud, right? And that is just such a force of nature.
Yes.
How do you control something like that? So they'd show a little bit of that, and then they would show you lots of
obsessively.
Yeah, but then they would show you men sitting at control panels, like they were controlled.
They had control.
That they would be able to control that if anything sort of, you know, if a mushroom cloud started sprouting out the side, they could, you know, maybe put it back together and just keep it contained. It was that kind of perception to show lots and lots of shots of men sitting at all these control panels, you know, doing things, twiddling dials and stuff, which would have done nothing to control a nuclear explosion, of course, but that's the perception
They're already
management.
Doing the perception
Absolutely.
management. And
way
you know,
back then.
the big reality that came out is they had no idea what they were doing on numerous tests.
Of course
and
not.
A lot of those tests in the South Pacific, the ordnance ended up carrying a more massive payload than they'd estimated. They radiated entire indigenous communities on islands.
They roasted them and toasted them.
And it was incredible. I mean, to begin with,
they had to move people.
They would relocate
islands.
all the time,
they had
which is quite frightening.
Yeah.
And then you have the above ground tests in
the
atmosphere and out in space.
Yeah.
And they reckon we got a third Van Allen radiation belt because of this stuff. So, look, I think what we should do is lay some groundwork early in the piece here with some authors that have stepped out onto an incredible limb.
Right, because it was, you know, it's like you go, okay, well, the you know, the Defense Force needs, you know, a studio to put out their propaganda. You know, but and they're not going to go to Hollywood and do it in the, you know, Paramount or
at any.
No, so they had to. But then it gets really, really weird as we go further down, and then the people that take it over and end up going in there, that's when it seems to be this weird juju just gets even weirder. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's where we're going.
Okay, but let's lay some groundwork and foundation stones for the counterpoint, the alternate narrative.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most fascinating independent authors is Dave McGowan, the late Dave McGowan, who has given us this book, Weird Scenes Inside Laurel Canyon. It took him at least a decade
to
unravel this and put this together. And in many ways, this is one of the first sort of insights into something else was happening that was not distinctly what we were led to believe. Now, we're all aware.
This is a show that I really want to do. I really want to go down there, but it's so huge
and so dark.
But even the dark is, I don't mind, you know, I can deal with the dark, but just trying to, how huge it is just really complex to navigate. So we need to really pare it down and give you, you know, try and sort out a show that we're giving you that, like, the bare bones of it. And then you people who are really interested can go into it. But it's actually, once you start looking into it, it's like every single band, every huge band that came out of Laurel Canyon, one of those people was directly related to some general, you know, huge general.
Let's do some background here and just do a
Yeah,
a sort of
sub-edit.
fractured sub-edit on
Mhm.
it. Now leave that up.
Okay.
I mean, a fractured sub-edit on the notion of weird scenes inside Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
So the basis of the hypothesis
Mhm.
behind this is that by the mid-60s, the US government was well aware that there was a lot of conjecture and blowback from
There's a lot of
Vietnam,
dissension from the people,
from the youth community,
Yeah.
but primarily students,
not just youth,
on
but yeah,
campus.
the
The educated.
the educators and the
scholarly.
really educated were really coming out and going, "This is not right."
So
we
what they
shouldn't be
had to
doing
do
this."
was demonize these students that were not only questioning the Vietnam War, they were questioning capitalism,
Yes.
corporatocracy
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
They were actually moving out of middle-class families and living in communal
Communes,
lives. They were
hippies,
buying secondhand clothes.
bartering.
They were
yeah,
doing dumpster diving
Yeah.
for food.
they were no good for the
and they
economy.
thought the wheels of the machine are going to grind to a halt.
Yeah.
So how do we demonize
Mhm. Mhm.
these young people?
Yeah.
So what we have to do is set up a countercultural movement
Yep.
where they're growing their hair long.
Yep.
They're actually utilizing drugs that
They're
would be
hippies.
prohibited
We're going to call
if
them
they
hippies.
weren't.
Yep.
And so it looks like the hippie movement may have been manufactured
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to then steer the public away from perceiving that these are peaceful, loving human beings.
Yeah.
But and of course we all know by the summer of 69,
Yeah.
it had all gone to hell on a Ferris wheel
Yeah, it had.
because Manson, Cielo Drive
Yeah. All that
had
came out.
occurred. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, Manson, who was the furthest thing from a hippie,
Yeah, he was a beatnik.
he was not even a beatnik.
Well, he
he
wasn't,
was
yeah.
an institutionalized bastard son of a street worker who had already
she
gone
was a
through,
child. She was 16 when
Yeah.
she had him, for Christ's sakes.
who
Anyway,
had gone
yeah.
through sheer hell,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all of a sudden appears in San Francisco with a bus, a series
Yeah.
of credit cards.
He was already in his mid-30s when he went.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't,
and a guitar.
Yeah.
And then they would go, "Oh my God, the long-haired hippies are turning. They're going to kill us in their beds at night."
Yeah.
I have heard that rhetoric before
Mhm.
here with the fear of Indonesians, coming down and swooping on us.
I'm
It's
telling
that
you,
same
from the
sort of rhetoric.
70s, yeah, from the 70s, we kept hearing here when we were young that the Indonesians were going to invade us.
Yeah.
Still waiting, haven't turned up.
And
I think we've invaded Indonesia. No, seriously, the Australians are like, taking over Bali and all those places. They go and visit there
It's a
all the
valid
time.
point.
They exploit those countries. there.
So
But anyway,
I suggest, if you're curious about this, now one great example is Jim Morrison, of course,
Yeah.
because his father, Admiral Morrison,
Mm.
gave us the false flag that was the Bay of Tonkin,
Mhm.
which actually ushered in
Vietnam, the Vietnam
Vietnam
War.
for the American public.
Yeah.
It was the main turning point.
Yeah.
We're being fired upon when they never were.
Yeah,
That was Jim Morrison's father.
dad.
And all these musicians, Joan Baez,
Yep,
Frank Zappa's
military.
father was working in biowarfare.
Yeah,
They
yep.
grew up on military bases.
Yeah.
They had a life where they were hop, skipping, and jumping around communities, very shattered
But
childhoods.
their parents weren't just army brats. Their parents were actually high ups.
A lot of them
in the
in
military.
intelligence services.
High
Yeah.
ups, which is really weird. really weird.
And even the notion of the hippie movement there and what was occurring in California with, the build up towards Est, lots of very weird cults
Yeah.
around Big Sur
cult-like.
and those
Yeah.
areas.
Mhm.
Won't name names.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we suggest you actually go and do and look at the work of the late Dave McGowan. Another very fascinating book that we'll only touch on is this one, which gives you a whole new assessment on the whole notion of random serial killers, or are they programmed?
There's nothing random
Or are
about
they
them, but anyway.
programmed?
Yeah.
Which is another interesting point because it's all about social engineering.
It is.
It's about shocking the public
Mhm.
to actually be obedient,
To fear, to
And-
be afraid.
and to be happy for what they've got and stay there and don't question reality. These are alleged hypotheses.
Yeah.
They're not, but Dave McGowan does a great job to back up the evidence of
Yeah.
weird scenes in Laurel Canyon and with this book, Program to Kill.
Mm.
And you know what's happened with Dave McGowan?
What?
He has literally become the John Keel, the Jim Keith
He has.
of a younger generation
He
than
has,
us.
yeah, for them,
But
yeah.
they are now all over the web and particularly on YouTube,
Yes.
doing extensive research based on the skeleton key
Of
that
these
lies within
books.
Dave McGowan's work.
Absolutely.
Now, prior to Dave leaving this mortal coil, and man, he was so courageous.
He was.
He was dying of extreme cancer, and the day before I think he passed away, he made sure that he got his truck registered so he could leave it to his daughter.
Right. Okay.
And it reminds me so much of my own father.
Now, was it Dave that, yeah.
Who,
yeah, the car.
Who had to run around to get the car registered because my mother had dementia.
With no
and
platelets
he
left
had
in
no
his blood.
platelets. He
Oh,
went
my
down
God.
to the hospital and they went, how was this man able to move?
How's he able to walk? Anyway, what was I going to say something then? Oh, now was Dave also did a huge investigation into the moon landing, and
it's an interesting term that he used for that. And the saddest thing is that book was never published. But the greatest thing is you can actually hear Dave audio files or all over the net. Punch into Google, wagging the moon doggy.
That's right.
And you know what? I've found it really difficult to actually entertain that conspiracy
about the moon landing.
Yeah, even though I have collected every single counterpoint published work
absolutely
and researched it. But it wasn't until I actually heard Dave's research that it did stop and make me think and make me shudder.
Maybe.
Yeah,
there's something weird
there's so
going
much
on.
Noise around the signal to begin with, and we should look at Gus Grissom's family.
Okay,
but one
moving
thing
on.
That's going to cement all of this is Tom O'Neill's latest book, which is causing shockwaves, and it has gone through so many publications.
Yes.
That this is a really important book. And why is it important?
Why is that?
Because of that great statement you were making that this is an outside journalist that was never interested in any of this material.
Had no skin in this game, that's for sure.
And he has uncovered.
So he had actually nothing to prove. This guy was like, okay, let me look into this and see what's going on. The
journalist was writing a revisional story on Charles Manson and realized that everything that Vincent Bugliosi had written might be up for question.
Well, it was up for question. Come on, give us a break.
And that Manson might have been part of a control program that led back to MKUltra. And we actually toured the late, great Colonel Robert Ressler.
We did.
And he was an FBI
absolutely
profiler.
He was
and you know, we can say this now. He's passed on.
Well, he's passed on. Yeah.
What did he say to us about Manson?
He said that Manson
was a complete front.
Total front. Yeah. That's
all right. So there's one other important book that was released like 3 or 4 days ago.
Oh yeah.
And this is going. Once this book collides with Tom O'Neill's book,
that's right.
There is going to be a shockwave because all of a sudden someone has done the research that was needed on the assassination.
Yeah.
And it's quite possible that
just from the little bit that I've heard, and
had nothing to do with his murder at all.
Well, he was there.
He was shot from the front.
There anyway,
and Chapman was 25 feet behind.
Let's not start with that one now because we're moving forward. We're going to try and get him on
the program. And one other last, and please go out if you're curious at all that the machinations behind these incidents, these major incidents that change us, and social engineer us, need to be at least questioned.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So if you're curious, go out and support David Wilhad. He was a Thames TV professional. So, I mean, the guy's got a background again. And during the pandemic, he just thought he'd do a little bit of research and look what happened.
Yeah, this is what happened.
And here's something that just keeps appearing everywhere at the scene of the crime.
Yes, the old Catcher in the Rye. Have you ever read the Catcher in the Rye?
I actually did a quick
scan
through it yesterday. It's been a long, long time. It's a very unusual book, but it looks like it's a trigger book. It was found in the hands of Mr. Hinckley.
Yeah,
it's been released now. The person who shot at Ronald Reagan.
Well,
was Mark Chapman.
Yeah,
Mark Chapman.
Mark Chapman.
He was reading it. After he allegedly fired the gun, which I believe was full of blanks, and was from behind, and he was murdered from bullet wounds in front.
Anyway,
4 of them. Yeah. Anyway, he sat down on the side of the gutter and started to read The Catcher
in
the
Rye. I mean, if that's not a... Anyway,
okay, so
yeah.
So let's have a little look at some of the views of Lookout Mountain.
Okay, here we go.
There's your front entranceway. Very nice. Reminds me a little bit of Edwards Air Force Base.
A little bit, yeah.
And there we go, sitting nestled.
So that's definitely carved into the mountain there. They've done a bit of carving there.
So as I said before, it had every facility known to man when it came to film. So let's have a look at one of the studios.
And I read somewhere, I read in that website that these two professors did for Lookout America. That's
the book to purchase as well.
So many stars back in the day, because it was from 47 to 69 that it was a working laboratory, film studio. It was Jimmy Stewart, Marilyn Monroe, Walt Disney, animators,
Gregory
Peck. It was this facility that filmed every single Bob Hope
abroad special
when he was
doing for the military.
Because he was a huge military entertainer. He went to all the military camps that the Americans had all over the world and entertained the troops. So they were the ones that filmed all that entertainment.
Names there too.
Yeah.
James Garner, Gregory Peck,
right?
King Novak,
they all did.
Glenn Ford, Lee Marvin.
Yeah.
So many. What were they doing? And they were probably sworn to secrecy.
And we've never seen any of those things.
No. A few of them are out there, but not to the extent.
No.
I mean, evidently only 5% of the material shot at Lookout Mountain has ever been seen by the public.
Now, on that site, Lookout America site that these two guys have put together, there's a section where you go to, and there's all these military films.
We'll put a link to that in
We'll give you a link, and you can go and have a look at all the films that have been released to the public. But like we said, only 5% have been released. The rest
so the films were things like film reports, training films, educational films, special projects. I swear to God, if there is a real Roswell autopsy
do you think that they filmed Trip to Where there?
Yeah, and I love that film. But can I just finish my statement?
I
swear to God, if there is a real Roswell autopsy, it was probably processed, edited,
it was probably filmed
played around there. Yeah, well, I don't know if it was filmed there. Tell them about Trip to Where.
Well, Trip to Where is a US in-house training film about doing drugs and then trying to get on a not navigate, but you are one of the guys that's bringing down the planes on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And this guy ends up does LSD, and then in the midst of trying to bring in one of these fighter jets onto the aircraft carrier, it starts to hallucinate. He's having a flashback.
It's an extraordinary educational film.
It's an amazing educational film. It's called Trip to Where. I think it might be on the what do you call it? I think on YouTube. Have a look for it. It's about 50 minutes long, but it's so funny and so out of control.
If people do have a problem with that, we have a beautiful 16mm print. So one day we will digitize that and get that up.
Yeah.
Now this is Lookout Mountain literally today.
Right,
and of course it's been sort of mocked up into a residential.
Well, but
we'll go into that in a minute's
later.
time. So we'll just have a look at some of the title cards from Lookout Mountain.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So what I think we'll do now is we'll actually go to and thank you to, I think it's Periscope Films. You need to go and look at that site as well. They put up some great educational films.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do is we'll look at an introduction to Lookout Mountain.
Yeah.
One of the educational films, and then we will come back and discuss.
We'll start giving you the juicy bits.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're down in the rabbit warren.
Oh boy, are we down that rabbit hole.
Lookout Mountain Air Force Station, a photographic installation of the Aerospace Audiovisual Service Military Airlift Command, and home of the 1352nd Photographic Group, containing facilities to accomplish all phases of photography. Staffed by both civilian and military filmmakers of the United States Air Force. The administrative function is housed in a portion of this modern building in the San Fernando Valley, a 15-minute courier drive from the main gate. The organization's mission: photographic documentation of Air Force activities, the production of scientific films, technical films, training films, informational motion pictures, for the Atomic Energy Commission, for joint Army and Air Force exercises, for civil defense, for the Air Force, as well as other government agencies. Films requiring animation may get their start in this division. The artist inking this cell is only one of an experienced team with special skills in all phases of technical animation. The completed cell, as it is finally photographed here, must often effectively portray an abstract or extremely complex idea, the workings of intricate mechanisms or a cross-section of an atomic weapon. The camera division is completely equipped for both stage and location photography. In just a moment, we'll see some clips from documentary coverage and the many productions that have passed through this laboratory. Laboratory operations require a high degree of skill and scientific control to process the many types of film handled here and exposed by not only our production unit, but others dispersed around the world. Sound requirements are fulfilled in a completely rebuilt and modern department, incorporating equipment that will allow technicians to transfer 12 effects tracks simultaneously. How does this all come together? What are the films like that are produced here? Well, here in one of our projection rooms, let's have a seat and take a brief look at some of our typical accomplishments. The Air Force Missile Mission, starring Jimmy Stewart, produced and photographed here at Lookout Mountain to explain weapons and policy, to show how both planes and missiles are needed for our defense. Newscaster Walter Cronkite introduced and narrated another of our films, Alert in the Pacific, showing how and where the Air Force is deployed. In a series of people-to-people films, we are also helping the East to meet the West. A film entitled Blood Brothers, produced to help explain Philippine culture to American servicemen, was introduced by Ambassador Romulo. This portion of the film was shot on the beach in Manila. The local fire department produced the rain, a Navy landing craft created the waves, an Air Force helicopter produced the wind, the Marines supplied the amphibian duck, American and Philippine actors played the parts, and Lookout Mountain technicians directed the action. This combined effort added up to a dramatic and interesting motion picture. Screen actor Glenn Ford starred in Taiwan, Isle of Freedom. And from Taiwan, we moved on to make a similar film in Korea, explaining Koreans to Americans. Our technicians worked on stages in Korea, recording customs, some of them old and strange, some of them more familiar and shared with the people of other lands.
Still off. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Our mics were off. But you know that footage we're just looking at the Philippines?
Yeah.
That was one of the statements I read, that some of that ended up becoming
News footage of a real event.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was totally staged.
And it was like news footage, you know, look at the US troops
We're
aboard and
helping.
look at the astounding work we're
yeah.
actually doing.
Yeah.
So as I said before, please go to Periscope Films. That is only just a little taste. You will find that there is a 20-minute piece there that gives you background, which I'd say was an internal film to acclimate staff, the public, people who were funding aspects of the defense department
on what's going on, but not what really is going on.
Very sanitized.
You know what I loved about all those films that they were showing snippets of? Those titles.
Beautiful, fonting, incredible.
Just they knew how to.
Just
they
the
had
colour.
definite. Tell you what, there was a lot of talented people working there for them. That's
I
for
reckon
sure.
the most talented people brought in by the military or even on consignment.
Yeah, right.
In Hollywood were utilized up there.
Absolutely.
Now, you spoke before about Walt Disney artists. And we are well aware that Disney in the 50s, Walt Keeble and animators like that had been approached by the US Air Force and the Navy to put together a documentary on the truth of UFOs.
Yeah,
So,
they had been. And then that was one of the films that actually got pulled at the last minute. They said, no, we're not doing it.
Imagine the amount of covert footage of missile tests. I mean, they had those high-speed cameras that would shoot literally thousands of feet of film a second, where they could analyze all that material. And we know of so many UFO interceptions during cruise missile launches and
doing
tests.
Weird stuff. Yeah.
We also have that great incident with at Holloman's Air Force Base.
What was his name? Not Glenn.
No, it'll come to us later. We're going to lose it.
Yeah,
where they actually filmed a landing of an object on the tarmac.
Yeah.
So incredible. 1969 it is decommissioned. Now I want to ask you, this lab was set up in 47.
Yeah.
What is it about 1947?
It's
the Roswell crash,
seminal year.
The Dead Sea Scrolls,
seminal year.
The birth of Starman himself, Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. So many odd things happened.
Our brother-in-law was born that year too.
I'm going to tell you out there now, if you people want a runaway documentary or film, do something about all the odd events that occurred in the year of 1947. It's one of those pivotal years that changed the world. Moving from the transistor to the integrated circuit.
Yeah.
What was going on?
Something was going on.
Yeah.
Something was definitely going on.
In the zeitgeist. So decommissioned in 69, but not sold publicly for another 10 years.
So it sat there empty, didn't it?
Sat there empty, but no one was allowed to go in, and no one at that stage was even aware. They just thought this is some sort of. I mean, initially
they must have been aware because people were going in and out all the time.
It was
when it was working.
It was 1940. I think it was like a radar overlook area.
Right. Okay.
So they might have just thought, look, it's the Defense Department. It's something to do with radar. They're protecting us here in LA.
I suppose they had people stationed to the road for. So just the public didn't go in there.
I'll tell you what they had was a huge cannon, a turret.
All right.
On a pivot up there.
All right.
And when they actually sold the property, they refused to sell that.
All right.
So does it mean that they still have armaments
Who knows?
looking over from Lookout Mountain?
All right. So let's go to one that's been purchased.
Daniil Berti was an American Indian actor who brought it and struggled with that facility to get it up and running.
Did they say how much he bought it for? No. And he would have bought it off.
I don't think it was a huge amount of money.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It became a huge amount of money, believe me.
Yeah, right.
So he brought that and struggled with it, and I don't know, ever got it working or operational. As a studio but I don't think anything went on there.
Well,
but there are some really weird apocryphal stories.
Yeah.
And one of them is not a direct statement. It's a statement from others, but let's put it out there.
Yeah.
Is that he said that he uncovered in there.
Right.
And we know that when those two gentlemen that wrote the book went back in, they were able to find microfiche.
Yeah, they did.
That actually gave them clues. That microfiche should not have been left in there.
Of course
so this is decades and decades later
that
they were able to find microfiche in there.
That's weird.
He reckons he uncovered a set that looked very similar to a lunar landscape.
A landscape. Yeah, right. Okay. Say no more. Say no more, Capricorn 1.
Was shot there. No. He struggled to keep that property afloat.
Yep.
it was a cannon gun on a pillar.
Mhm.
And isn't that just bizarre in itself? That is so
'Cause
weird.
what were they going to do? Shoot at people as they went up there? You can't do that.
All
Or
right.
can you?
Now we're going to go
suppose if you're
really
the
left of center, people.
Yeah,
We're
all
going to
right.
go to someone who purchased it. I don't believe they own it now,
Mm.
but they purchased.
Don't we go to 1982? Who owned it in 1981?
No, we don't go to 83
Okay.
just yet.
Okay. All right.
83 is when that our
Okay.
film came out.
Yeah.
I think it's important to go through this lineage of ownership,
Okay.
and then it
Go
reaches that
back.
incredible point.
All right. Go for it.
But what I was going to ask you, have you ever heard about the island called Mars? I know a lot of islands in contemporary culture have become highly suspect now.
Lolita Island.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Well, that's
and
pretty
I'm not
suspect.
inferring that this island is that at all.
Well, you'll
but there
see
are
it for
some
yourself.
noise behind
Yeah,
this
there's
signal.
always noise. There's always
So
some
let's have a
smoke.
look at Mars Island. I had no idea that Mars was actually an island.
Is that it there?
Yes, please.
That one? Okay. So Mars Island is, okay, that's in Croatia, isn't it?
Yeah. Now,
coast of
let's go
Croatia.
down to moving images.
Moving?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let me take Mars Island off.
No. Keep that there for me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, people can look at that map.
Okay.
And let's just hit this little thing there.
Which one that?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay.
Go.
Hey guys, it's me, Jared, 30 Seconds to Mars, but you may know that. We've been working really, really hard on Mars Island 2. We were able to push it until August 2021.
Moving your festival to next August, it's the right thing to do.
It's pretty much our only show booked for 2021 on a beautiful private island in Croatia. I think it's going to be a big celebration that we can all enjoy after quarantine. It feels a little like I'm living on an island right now, but we're excited about it. Looking forward to taking a dip in the sea, water sports, beautiful sunsets. I've been known to like a good sunset. Tattoos, that sandwich. No, not that sandwich. We have meditation, we have yoga, we have arts and crafts. Oh, and did I mention we're performing? 2 nights, 30 Seconds to Mars. Intimate shows, a lot of fun. We've been working a lot of new music lately. So if you get tickets for Mars Island, I'm going to be doing a private Zoom about 2021. Take care, guys. We'll see you soon.
Did I forget to mention we're performing? No, you didn't
No.
forget to mention because you frigging well mentioned it.
So what was the tickets? Ticket prices there?
Oh, let's clarify where we're going with this.
Okay.
And Jared Leto went
Yeah.
on to become the owner.
He's the owner of it now
No, he's not
No?
the owner of it now. I
But he
stated
did have-
before, but he owned it there for
for a
quite
while.
a time.
Okay.
And he is the man behind Mars Island and the band 30 Seconds to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And here's this interesting linkage
Yeah.
into this whole notion of what is happening there in Laurel Canyon.
Mhm. Yeah.
The whole notion of Hollywood and
Yeah.
the cults of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look at Jared leading.
Well, let's just have a look at him and see what he reminds you of.
There's Jared there.
Jesus is going to feed them,
Yeah.
some loaves and some fishes.
Let's see Jared doing Jim Jones on the island.
Wow.
Now, if this is not a play on a cult, I can't
I
believe
don't know what
it.
it is.
Let's have a
Let's
look
go
here.
Jared again. Okay.
Yeah, so there's
just
the
without the
workers.
sunglasses. Yeah. Okay.
And I think the tickets started at around $1,000. You've got to bring your own bedding and your own tent for that.
Right.
And
At
then
well, what do they give you?
you could get a deluxe package that went right up to $10,000.
$10,000.
But hey, this is the guy that years ago, for the launch of one of his albums, had a prize going for his devoted, obsessive followers.
Yeah.
And that prize was you could sleep in the bed of Jared Leto.
Oh, with some Jesus juice.
Yeah, maybe.
Handed out to you by
Now, of
Jesus
course,
himself.
All
Oh
of us
my
know
God.
that Jared is a musician.
And what if you were a 15-year-old girl? Could you sleep with him still?
I don't want to discuss that. Quiet.
Okay.
Now, Jared is a musician from the band 30 Seconds to Mars,
Mhm.
which his brother is the drummer.
Yeah.
His father was part of the military. Hold on.
Yeah,
His father
come
was
on.
part of the military.
Of course he was. Yeah.
But had that moment that you always talk about where he actually said to Jared one day, I'm just going out to get some milk.
Oh, yeah, some milk and some cigarettes. Yeah.
And never came
Never
back.
came back.
And his mother was also, I think there was some involvement there with the Children of God at one stage.
Okay.
He lived in communes and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Okay.
He did end up with a great stepfather for a couple of years. That was the one that brought him a guitar. But as I said, he's probably more well known as an actor.
Right.
I think he had a moment with
Jared Leto.
Daniel Radcliffe, our Harry Potter actor,
All right.
where Daniel had said, look, I don't think actors should all of a sudden become musicians.
All right. Okay.
And the interviewer said, why? And he said, well, have you heard 30 Seconds to Mars? and then at one of these award shows, Jared came up and confronted him.
Right. Okay.
And he just told him to piss off.
Right.
And
wow.
then he came back and choked him. And there are
Choked him.
There are lyrics in his song
Right.
about if you really love someone, you should wrap your arms around their neck.
Oh, wow.
And there's
Okay.
a few ladies out
Was that-
there allegedly
Yeah,
that have said he gets a little too,
bit.
yeah.
Little bit.
Okay, but let's.
But was, when he said, when they showed a sandwich?
Well, what was that about?
Well, the only other sandwich that I know about is when you know, a sexual, the sexual sandwich. It's
and
like,
he's always like that.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
I think there's seconds away from some Me Too action there.
Yeah, right.
I think he's one of those stars that everyone's going is about to burst at the seams.
Yeah.
It might end up with a Russell Brand day. Who knows?
Okay, who knows?
But
Oh, no,
isn't
yeah.
his an odd coincidence, right?
Well, it's just
He's an actor, but who did he play?
who? Oh, yeah, that's right. He
Played Mark Chapman.
Mark Chapman.
And he's one of those method actors that goes
Yeah.
to extreme lengths. You know,
He really piled on the weight there,
yeah,
didn't
like
he?
De Niro in Raging Bull. It's one of those things. And his is still
Yeah.
where he is Mark Chapman. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, can you just take us back to? No, I think we'll leave it there. I'm not sure. Anyway, so
here he is as the Christ guy.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
really piled on the weight, didn't he?
yeah, he did.
Wow,
he
that's
did.
just
But
huge.
he look.
Anyway,
Margot Robbie said in Suicide Squad he
Yeah.
played the Joker, right?
all right.
And he
Okay.
goes into method acting to the point where he is that character 24 hours a
24/7.
day,
It's a
and
bit-
she was actually fearful for a
Yeah,
life.
there's a bit something a bit psychotic if you're that.
Well, there's some
Mm.
weird training going on there. Is it MK Ultra training? Who
Don't
knows?
Anyway,
Okay,
Okay.
just to make this story even weirder and darker,
Yeah.
and we're only scratching the surface, people. This is for your
we're just
Clip
giving you the
notes.
skeleton. You
Yeah,
know, you
it's
can
up to
dive.
you
You
to
can
go
deep
out
dive
there.
into this if you want.
and we're just using the
We
word
have,
allegedly,
but we just don't have the time today.
and we're not stating we don't have the time lifetime
Yeah,
wise,
that's true.
because this is the deepest, darkest rabbit hole. We're not stating that any of this is absolutely real.
Well, it's information that's out there, so you need to sort out,
In
sift
terms
through it, and
of
see
the
what you want.
allegations.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But let's have a look at the man behind.
Smoke, fire, baby.
All right, let's have a look.
Unless
at...
it's a smoke machine, and this ain't a smoke machine. Anyway. Sorry. All right, where are we going now? Oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Yep.
That.
All right.
Let's go to the.
Now, what
Twitter.
does this have to do with any of that?
Well, this is written by
Yep.
Mike Gray.
Yeah.
Now, this was written, produced,
Yep.
and distributed and released 12 days before 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
And this is like Silkwood. It's
Yep.
one of those films that really questions
Yeah.
the use of nuclear energy
Mhm,
and the
mhm.
dangers involved in it.
So
It's
the
just
China
sounding
syndrome
really-
comes out 12 days later. We've got the meltdown of 3 Mile Island.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this is probably the most well-known film by Mike Gray. But
Mhm.
Mike Gray was a revolutionary documentarian.
He was.
He
Give
shot.
us- yeah.
He shot.
He was a political documentary. So he was like into serious you know,
American Revolution
yeah,
2,
yeah.
the death of Fred Hampton.
Yes.
Did a lot of documentation for the Black Panthers.
Mhm.
And then, oddly enough, he started to write. He had a moment in Big Sur,
Mhm.
and there's a group up there called Estelin. Have
Right.
you ever heard of them? Another one of these weird
Different
sort
to
of
est.
est type cults.
Right. Okay.
Did a
But
bit of
Estelin.
Gestalt therapy.
Gestalt.
And
I
I've
love a
probably
bit of
got the
Gestalt
name
therapy.
Now, well, don't.
I love slapping people.
Don't. It is
Metaphorically, I
Yeah.
mean.
dangerous.
And physically sometimes if they need it.
So I did that on the way back from Big Sur.
Yeah.
And you know that cult was actually utilizing the work of Andrei Puharich, who we did the episode of, the man who brought Uri Geller. And the Nine.
And the Nine.
And
Here
the
we go.
Nine was in there.
I tell you what, those 9 keep popping up all the time.
Well, the other thing with Mike is he went on to write for Star Trek.
Yeah, right. There you
Which
go.
the whole
With Gene,
universe,
Gene
the
Roddenberry. Who was,
Federation,
the
Nine,
did
where
stuff.
the template's taken from.
That's right. Okay.
But in the 80s,
Only coincidence, people.
he decides
Only
to
coincidence.
step outside of the political documentary
Yeah.
arena,
Serious
which
stuff.
he'd been working desperately hard on. I think out of Chicago, where he founded the film group, which were all radical left-wing documentarians and activists and writers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were incredible. But all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
Yeah.
he decides to break into the Lookout Mountain
Lab.
facility.
Yeah. What year was this?
This is in the 1980.
1980.
And start filming covertly this
'Cause he
feature
broke in.
film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's have a look. And it's allegedly he broke, and we don't know that absolutely for sure.
So this is the movie.
But it's all shot within Lookout Mountain.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Yep. It's called Wavelength.
If you have not seen this film, this is probably one of the most underrated, incredible
Aliens Land. Yeah.
and governmental interference films you'll ever come across.
Absolutely.
So I think it's really important.
It was around the time that E.T. came out, isn't it?
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I think what's really important is we actually
It's
find
nothing like E.T., believe me.
well, it's shot in that documentary style.
Yeah.
And it alludes to lots of things like programming of people, brainwashing techniques. There are signs all on the walls of the facility about not breaking your secrecy code to anyone.
Yeah.
You know, it's better to die.
It's like keeping your pin to yourself.
And so, you know,
Don't give anybody your pin number.
this stars the incredible Cherry Curry.
Yes.
Out of
what was the band?
It's just the Runaways.
Yep.
Kim Fowler's concoction of the Runaways. It also stars David Carradine's brother, I think.
All right. Yes.
Is that Robert Carradine,
Yes.
half brother?
Yes.
His half brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so it's you're going to have to look at it. I don't want to be a spoiler.
Yeah. No, don't be a spoiler.
But there is something to this film and why he would even do this film in that facility.
It's a weird one.
At that time.
Yeah.
A lot of people address it that it is actually a metaphor, an allegory for the darkness and the exploitation of children.
Yeah.
Because the aliens are actually, for the first and only time, played by children.
By young children.
They shave these children's heads.
Yeah.
And so here's a better image from the great soundtrack by Tangerine Dream to the film.
Old Tangerine Dream.
So you get an idea of what these aliens look like.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what's that?
That's
the back
cover.
of the album cover.
So the image is there. You actually don't see a saucer. You see something like a portal.
Sphere. Or
it's
a sphere. Yeah.
It's like an orb.
Okay.
So it's a really interesting, unique film. I'm sure there is a copy we can give you a link to.
I will have a look, and if there is a link on YouTube that you can have a look at it if you want, I will put that link up for you and you can have a look at it.
Now, here's one of the oddest things of the lot.
It gets odder.
We were running through before actors that had been involved but never made a public statement as to what their work was at Lookout Mountain. And one of them was Keenan Wynn.
Okay.
Keenan Wynn stars in Wavelength.
Oh, right, yes.
So Keenan Wynn might have been background info for Mike Gray in terms of informing the narrative of this picture
of what was
and what had been going down, because he'd been on the inside looking out.
There, right, okay.
So isn't that fascinating?
That's very interesting
in itself.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say about Jared Leto is that there are some weird moments in Jared's career that are not just him running around in white robes.
Being Jesus.
And, you know,
man, what are you doing?
He's been and rehabilitated himself. So I believe on Mars Island, you can't take alcohol or drinks. That's probably because they're selling them to you on the island.
No. If it's a cult thing, If it's like a cult, he wants total control of those people. Alcohol and drugs, you can't. Once people get out of it, you can't control them.
We're not saying it's a cult, but the second album of 30 Seconds to Mars, right? We're not saying it's a cult. No, it looks like a cult, doesn't it?
Hang on. We're not saying it's a cult. We're not saying it's a cult. But hey, you know, sure.
Yeah, I mean, what
That's
other
not a
band,
cult. Yeah.
you know, does this happen at?
Anyway, so
So
we're not saying
dedications on his second album
Yeah.
leave you wondering.
Okay. What are they?
Deepak Chopra,
Okay.
Pythagoras,
Yeah.
Robert Greene,
Yeah.
Buddha,
Mhm.
Sun Tzu.
Mm.
Here's where it starts getting weird. Machiavelli,
Oh yeah, he's a great one.
L. Ron Hubbard,
Yeah.
Herman Hesse.
Okay. Yeah. There's someone to look
J.D.
up to.
Salinger, who wrote Catcher in the Rye,
Yeah.
and C.S. Lewis,
Okay.
that gave us the greatest enigma and puzzle of the
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alice. So,
Alice in Wonderland. Yeah. Okay, so they're the people that is the two that I'm really worried about would be Herman Hesse, a nut, a goose stepping
And
Nazi.
don't say the other one, please.
Why?
Because I don't want to be shadow banned.
No, but, oh yeah, right. They're going to shadow ban us. Seriously,
Yeah.
seriously. Yeah. Anyway,
Let's
all right. I
have-
won't
let's-
say the other one.
Let's have a little look at the trailer for Wavelength. and
Oh,
we'll
okay.
come back
Yeah, I'm up
and we'll
for
do
the
it
trailer.
just to end off. We'll do a tour of Jared Leto's property when it's up.
Weeks ago in the Mojave Desert, they were first encountered. They were taken to a top-secret government installation beneath a major American city. They were kept in a state of suspended animation. And then, the experiments began.
Was there more than one voice?
Voices. They were more like thoughts.
Wavelength. No one was supposed to hear them.
It's coming from somewhere in there. Oh, God. What? Oh, God!
What is it, Iris?
No one was supposed to discover them. But now that someone has,
They want to know what you've done with your friend.
God.
the world must never know.
We gotta make sure those things stay down there.
Everybody out now! Hey, what the hell's going on?
Don't you understand what's happening here?
Arm your weapon.
By God, General, this is madness.
Picking up something strange. You must be 2 miles across!
They came looking for humanity and found the greatest danger in all the galaxies. Man. Wavelength. Was it our experiment or theirs?
Promo.
Yeah.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
Yes.
If this
let's-
journey gets any more exciting, I won't be able to go. I'm telling you.
Well,
now.
you know, was it their experiment or
ours? Well,
Yeah.
you know.
Was it our experiment or theirs? I've got to look back to front, haven't I? Let's have a little look at the final close here.
Yeah.
And what it'd be like to actually dream on and purchase the Lookout Mountain
So this is
facility.
the inside of Lookout Mountain.
Yeah, and
this
you
is
know-
what he sold.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
Leto.
know what?
Mm.
If I purchased that thing and
Mm.
had the money,
Yeah.
I would employ everyone in that area to come in and jackhammer the hell out of it and find out what's underneath it. Because we know that the coolest, safest place to keep film is in the ground.
Not in a tin shed.
It's in the ground, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes,
Buried
that's
under a street,
Yeah,
buried
yeah, that's
under
right.
a facility.
Well, that's where it's cool.
That's where it
Anyway,
will
all right, let's
survive.
have a look at this. Is the promo video for him to sell
It's the
Lookout
sales. Yeah,
when he
let's
was.
go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. If you've got a cool 5 million,
Well,
which is not that expensive,
it's
really.
not.
We should
But
do
it's
crowdfunding
like, do
on
you
that.
get the whole thing? I mean, what?
No, you don't. You don't get that gun, Taron.
No. But do you get like what's underneath? I mean, it
I don't
was
think they
down.
want you to know what's underneath.
Well, there has to be doorways leading into the rest of it, or have they blocked them
That's
off?
why I said we'd go to Kennard's Hire and get the
jackhammers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have a real look
There you
at
go.
it.
You know what? The only thing that I saw in there that some of those paintings are a bit,
Don't tell
for
me that
my
was
taste,
Jared's art.
But that dining room, he could have had the Last Supper there, you know.
Maybe he
It
was
looked like
comparing those robes he was
maybe
wearing.
they should get him and just, crucify him the next day. Anyway, look.
22 years of operation, they produced 6,500 films.
Wow, that's a
They
lot of
reckon
films.
that they in that 22 years, that if you were to watch those films back to back, there's at least 10 years worth of viewing.
Right.
And that's just what they've told the public.
Yeah, right.
Which they never wanted to tell the public anything about it.
Okay. All right. Well, that's your Lookout Mountain, people. Lookout Mountain Laboratory.
So look out, California, I mean, really, and I know we are down south anomalies.
It seems
we have such a great love for America, though.
Well, that's who we are. But, it's like
there.
those places always seem to attract. They're like a magnet to weird stuff. If we look back and saw what was going on in Lookout Mountain before the Europeans turned up there, there's probably an Indian burial ground.
I'm sure
I'm telling you right
Peter
now.
Lavinda could tell us.
It's one of those mounds.
Of
there was stuff going on there because it keeps attracting weird shit.
All right.
Anyway.
So will our next show be out by Christmas? No, it won't be.
No, it won't. The next show, what's today's date? Today's date is the 16th. So the next 7 is the 23rd.
Right.
So it's just before the 23rd. So next week, I don't know what we're going to do. We'll see, because it's right
we're
on the
hanging
cusp
on
of Christmas.
Interviews.
Yeah.
This time of year, interviews are collapsing
it's really
on
hard.
us. So
people are busy, blah, blah, blah. But then the one after that, which is the 23rd, the 30th,
yes,
we will do the
yearly roundup.
Yearly roundup.
What a year this has been!
It's been an interesting year. That's for sure.
From David Grush, and our journalist Ross Coldhart.
Ross, yeah.
Have I pronounced that name
Ross
properly?
Coldhart, yeah.
I mean, we got Close Encounters Down Under.
We did. That was pretty amazing.
The local TV screens.
Yeah.
6 episodes. Look out for that, people. They
Yeah.
don't do a very good job in making you aware it's there, but I believe it's up on BritBox and a few other things out there.
Yeah.
So keep a look for that.
Close Encounters Down Under, if you want to check it out. There's some really interesting cases.
And, we mustn't say anything, but there is hope that there could be. Anyway, let's not spoil it.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. We thank each and every one of you. We surely do. Malcolm, we're screaming out to you and all our great supporters
this
to get in
this is
chat.
such a great opportunity for us, because we've done all this reading for all these years, and we're finally able to actually do something with it.
And in the twilight years of our life, to come together, and we've been married for 33 years.
Well, we've been married for 19 years next year,
but we've been together
for 33 years. Yeah.
And that's how Cat Anton's screaming from the
he's only
heat.
just woken up.
And there is so much heat.
We are
The
still
heat had
melting
been
here
so
in
extreme.
Australia. It's been in the 30s, creeping up.
And yet this country needs so much water. It really
I don't
does.
know why
everyone.
every single house in this country, or every single building, doesn't have solar panels on it. We could just run it off solar energy. We wouldn't need the electricity. And it's not even an environmental thing I'm talking about. It's like a financial thing.
Yeah.
It's free energy, for Christ's sakes. Why aren't we utilizing it? But hey.
What we're going to do is we're going to give you some links in the show notes, and one of them is to a Synchro Mystic site that has its own Patreon people.
Yeah,
they've done the best research. Do you remember Project Camelot? You could put a lot of question marks around Kerry Cassidy and Project Camelot, but it just depends where your tastes are. A lot of people say that there is a lot of stories there that don't have backup evidence.
Yeah.
But they were doing an interview years ago with an anonymous military
what backup
source.
evidence have we got for Jesus? But hey.
Hold on a moment. You've just destroyed the whole of Middle America in terms of our viewing audience.
Well,
just out of the blue.
No, I mean, come on. Let's get real. Sometimes you just got to go on faith.
My wife, listen.
And a lot of people do. And it is about, you don't need the proof. You just know.
I don't
have
a
what
problem
I mean?
with Jesus. If anything,
either do I.
I have no.
I wish we were all like Jesus, really like Jesus. You know what I mean? Well, caring, loving, attentive. We'd be a much better planet. But hey,
you make me laugh. You
do
really
I?
You
do I?
Make me laugh so much.
Okay.
And I've lost that point I was heading towards there, and it was a pretty.
It was probably very poignant, but hey, we don't need to be too poignant, do we?
Yeah.
All right, kids, we will be back next week with who knows
just
what.
Show some kindness out there, some open-mindedness. I know most of you do, and there's no reason for us to even state that to you, but I'm just talking about the noise that is the interweb, the netweb, the internet. It's frightening, just the amount of negativity thrown at other people. In many ways, what they've done is effectively got us to divide and conquer between ourselves.
You know what I've found?
Miss the bigger picture.
I'll tell you what I've found with people that throw shade on others and are mean to. It says more about that person.
It's a mirror,
people,
isn't it?
Than the people that they're going off about.
Okay. So I've remembered, thank heavens we had that pregnant pause.
Okay, that's why I was talking.
have remembered
there we go.
The Project Camelot and Kerry Cassidy, whilst I was throwing a tiny amount of shade there on the research.
Yeah.
They actually did an interview with someone who said, if you want to see the truth about the abduction scenario and ET visitation, you need to look at the film Wavelength.
Oh, right. Okay, there you go.
And so even though that source was anonymous, we will actually find a link to that secret mystic source and a link to a statement showing stills from the film. Have a read of that article and then go to our link of the feature film and have a look at it. And it's an astounding achievement for Mike Gray on a low budget.
Sure.
Utilizing the secret source that was Keenan Wind at that time, who had been inside Lookout Mountain.
Right.
There's so many stories yet to be told. What's the name of that book again that people need to go and look at?
Out America.
Look Out America.
I'll put a link to that website.
Yeah.
And they can look at the films that have been released that were made at Lookout Mountain between 47 and 69. And and you can read it a little bit. There's a little bit of info on there.
All right. We wish to also say stay safe at this time of year. Look after yourselves, but more than anything else, just keep inquiring into consensus reality, because the only thing that you and I want is not that this be revealed, but the crack in the notion of that reality just widens.
Absolutely.
Because we can then start to accept the notion of anything. And as far as I'm concerned, in here, in our imagination, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
You've been on Untold Radio. This is Down South Anomalies, episode 60, which I'd say is a bit of a landmark for us.
I'm looking forward to episode 69.
California Dreaming.